Fair warning, this show contains strong language and adult themes from time to time. Sorry, Jerry can't help it.
Sick Boy Wolfgang Productions presents The Offering with Jerry Horror. A deep dive into the history of film and its filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre.
Okay, so I found my new favorite rabbit hole. It's called Horrifying Hot Sauce, straight out of Denver, Colorado. And man, this stuff is wild. Handmade, small batch artisan sauces, each one inspired by horror movies and all the pop culture stuff we grew up on. I'm literally scrolling through their site right now. It's horrifyinghotsauce.com, and it's like a haunted spice rack. You've got PG mild for the lightweights, all the way up to the NC-17 scream into a pillow heat with bottles like Della Morte and Linnea's lipstick. Listen, guys, they don't just throw peppers in a blender. No. These maniacs ferment every batch for weeks until it bubbles like some mad scientist's cauldron. And then they hit it with fresh ingredients, so you get this perfect balance of scary hot and scary good. Some of the flavors on here: Profondo Rosso, Season of the Witch, The Color Out of Space, and this is my favorite, What We Eat in the Shadows. I mean, tell me, you don't want a bottle of Season of the Witch sitting in your kitchen? And rumor has it, there's even a very special Ghouligans collab coming, and oh, you know I need that one. Here's the deal. Use 10 off 4 for 10% off any 4 bottles. Hey, or you go big with 15 off 6. That's 15% off any 6 bottles of your choice. And if you're in Denver, keep an eye out for the Horrifying Film Festival, where you can watch scary movies while torching your tongue. It's a perfect night out, right? Perfect date night. I'm literally adding bottles to my cart right now, so do it with me. Check out horrifyinghotsauce.com. It's spooky and spicy. Welcome to The Offering with me, your host, Jerry Horror. Each week we take a deep dive into the history of film and filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre. Please take a moment to subscribe to our show wherever you find your favorite podcast to stay up to date on future episodes. Coming up, unlike most movies that feature the undead, the word zombie is actually said in this movie. This film was the first to popularize the notion that zombies specifically crave brains and that they groan brains as they walk. This legendary scream queen joked once that she had never had more attention focused on her vagina than when they were shooting her famous naked graveyard dance scene. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this.
Creepy classics, modern fights. Jerry guides us through the nights. Horror's history in the lights. Exploring endless chills and heights. George Romero, lost footage and hidden gems. Director's visions, dark diadems behind the scenes. We're taking their insightful whispered secrets we share. Sam Raimi. The Offering with Jerry Horror. Stories old and new. Jason Kruger, Bruce Campbell, genre twists that shake your core. Every episode, we craving more. Mostly horror, always genre.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, this is The Offering, and I am your host, Jerry Horror. Welcome back to all our favorite fans, and to all the people new to the show. Hey, you're going to dig this, man. This is some good shit. Let's get right into it. We have got an action-packed episode. It is an amazing film that we are covering today. A fan favorite of so many folks who love horror movies, and quite possibly my favorite zombie movie of all time. But we'll get to that, don't you worry. Let's talk about some stuff that's been on my mind. I saw Macon Blair's Toxic Avenger. You can see my review on YouTube and TikTok. I gave it a fantastic review. I loved it. It was a really good movie. As a kid growing up, obviously trauma was a part of my love language and a part of my formative years. I was a huge fan of everything Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz put out. And I wasn't expecting much with this movie, but holy shit. Macon Blair, the folks over at Legendary, thank you for putting up that money. Cineverse, our friends at bloodydisgusting.com, everybody, you rocked the shit out of this. I really wish more people saw it. When you're a horror fan or you're a genre fan film, the theater was pretty well packed. But again, it's the first showing on a Thursday night. So it's the hardcore. It's the nerds like myself. I thought it was funny as fuck. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I can't say it enough. Peter Dinklage is great. Kevin Bacon's great. Everybody did their thing. They had a really cool thing that they did. And not just because like, hey, we're doing this for the marketing. They did something very, very kind, and Cineverse is eliminating $5 million in medical debt. And, they were doing this thing for every $1 million they made, they would erase $1 million in debt. I can't even tell you, like, not only is this a great promotion, but what a wonderful way to give back just to everybody, to the community. There's some guy who, like, he got all his medical bills paid, and he's like, what the fuck is the Toxic Avenger? He's like, well, the Toxic Avenger just erased your fucking cancer bills. So, hey, that's always a good thing. And you know what? I really hope that other studios, other people marketing their films do stuff like this. Because you know what? We all love movies, but we all go through terrible shit. And if we can give back to the film fans, regardless of how much they love Class of Nukem High, I think that is a good thing. Talking about a bad thing today, Scott Spiegel, legendary collaborator of Sam Raimi, has passed away. Look, man, Spiegel is such a part of our childhood. He gave us, obviously the Evil Dead films, Spider-Man. This guy even produced, he was one of the producers on Lionheart. Did you know that? Sick plug for Lionheart, a movie we haven't done yet, but we'll probably get there at some point. You name it. Drag Me to Hell, Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness. This was the dude who basically put on Quentin Tarantino. So if you love the QT movies, you wouldn't have them without Scott Spiegel. So in all seriousness, our sincerest condolences to Scott Spiegel, his friends, family, and everybody who loved him. A lot of times you see on the Oscar thing, it's like the in memoriam. They'll go through things. I remember the year that Dennis Farina passed away, and I'm like, fucking Dennis Farina, man. He's one of the realest ones to do it. And they just didn't even acknowledge it. And Spiegel is one of those guys who deserves his flowers. I mean, he gave us The Rookie, the 1990 film with Charlie Sheen and Clint Eastwood. So we have to thank him for that alone. Darkman, which was a sick plug for a previous TikTok. That's what we're doing now. Yeah, we're plugging TikToks. The kids love it. Listen, if you dig pretty much anything that Raimi worked on, Homeboy was there. He's a part of horror history. He's there from Jump Street. So for all you Evil Dead fans, pour out a little liquor for my man Scott Spiegel tonight. Rest in peace, brother. I told you. If you review our show, I will read them on air, even the shitty ones. I mean, we need the 5-star ones, let's be honest. But I will read the shitty ones because, hey, there's nothing better than an unhinged review, sick plug, of this show. So I dig it. Let's get to this review. It is a 5-star stunner. The title, Jerry's TikToks got me in the door, but the podcast kept me here. I actually found Jerry Horror on TikTok first. His quick reviews always popped up on my FYP. I liked those, but once I checked out the Offering podcast, I got hooked. The short videos are fun, but the podcast lets him really dig into the crazy production stories. Episodes like The Worst Horror Sequel of All Time and We Have Freddy Krueger at Home are my favorites. Jerry tells the stories like he's sitting across the table at a bar, and you can tell he's done his research. It's like if the last podcast on the left cut the goofing in half and we just went deep on the movie history. Sometimes he rambles a bit or goes off track, but honestly, that's a part of the charm. The show feels personal, not corporate. If you're into horror history and those you won't believe what went wrong stories, this one's worth binging. This comes from Jason R. from Texas. Thank you, Jason R. I appreciate the love. I appreciate that you dig the show. We will keep making them if you keep listening. Listen, folks, we need these 5-star reviews anywhere. Give them on Spotify. Give them on our homepage. Give them on, they got Apple Podcasts. They do that one. YouTube. I don't give. Hey, look, man. You put them anywhere that you can put a review. Smash that like button. Subscribe. Whatever the fuck the kids are saying these days. Who cares? It's like I keep saying, the algorithm don't mean shit because it's run by machines. That's right. You all thought that the Terminator was going to come into your bedroom and slay you. Nope, it's just going to give you shitty TikTok videos and shitty YouTube recommendations that you could give a fart less about. Well, enough of this titillation. We have been gooning for this entire cold opening. We need to get to the action. Now, let me just remind you about Season 5. Season 5 is all about tropes and trends. The trope in this movie is, of course, zombies. However, today's film created trends. Ooh, look, it's both. It's a trope and a trend. Most of what we know is modern zombie mythology actually comes from this film. A lot of the things, like the things that you've seen on The Simpsons Halloween specials, what are they called? The Treehouse of Horror? It's so much a part of the lexicon, and I'm going to say it right now, and it will upset a lot of people out there. I think this movie is more influential than some of the other zombie films in the genre. Therefore, we go. I said it. I'm bad. You know what it is. So get your popcorn, get your alcoholic beverages, get it is whatever that you're smoking, and let's get this show popping. Boom! So this is how we got to roll into this. Let's take a quick snapshot of the year in horror of 1985. These were all the movies that came out in 1985. It is going to blow your mind. There are so many stone cold classics and great films that we treasure today. You got Silver Bullet, of course, the Gary Busey, Corey Haim joint. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which is one of my favorites because it is so darn stupid and gay-coded. Day of the Dead. Oh, there were people out there like already throwing their trash. Like, who is this guy? I don't know shit. Ghoulies, Creepers, a.k.a. Phenomena, which has a great soundtrack. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, one of my favorites, super sleazy. The classic, probably the second best movie of the 80s, vampire movies, Fright Night. The first one's Lost Boys. Don't even like at me. The Stuff. Was that a previous episode? That was a previous TikTok. Sick plug. Life Force, House, Cat's Eye, Once Bitten, The Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, one of the best titles. That is one of like the best titles of all time. Demons, The New Kids, classic favorite of mine. Teen Wolf. We love Teen Wolf. Especially when that guy goes dong out. That's a great movie. Return to Oz, which is a horror movie. I don't care what you say. It is a horror movie. Reanimator, The Mutilator, Mr. Vampire, which is a really crazy Hong Kong horror comedy. If you haven't seen it, I totally recommend it. If you're looking for some like really terrible trash, The Nail Gun Massacre, I love that movie. 1985 was such a seminal year in horror filmmaking. All of these movies, even like The Stuff, even like Mr. Vampire, is wildly influential. And you can't say that about a lot of years. Some years you get bricks, man. They ain't hitting the 3-pointers. They're just fucking throwing bricks out there and you get nothing. But 1985, man, like Teen Wolf is super influential. House, all of this shit. Even Friday the 13th Part 5, which I love because it's so sleazy. All of these movies are crazy influential. But what is the most influential movie of all time? Well, it's one of the movies that we're covering today. I'm going to get there, don't you worry. It is the 40th. Ooh, we are old, Producer Pete. It is the 40th anniversary of this film. It is the triumphant anniversary of today's film, Return of the Living Dead.
They only come out at night. They're mean, rude, and dead. Not them. Them.
There's 100 of those things out there.
How many did you say?
100?
The dead are refusing to remain buried.
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna call the boss.
They've come back to life. They're hungry. And they're not vegetarians.
The graveyard out there is full of people coming out of the ground.
We have a little problem.
What the hell is going on there?
Rabbit weasels.
What?
More brains.
Do you want a party? It's party time! We got a party! It's party time! Do you want a party?
They're back from the grave and ready to party.
It's party time!
The return of the living dead.
My earliest memory of Return of the Living Dead was seeing Back to the Future, which also came out, 40 years ago. Jesus Christ. I remember like it was yesterday. A movie blew my mind. My parents would, they'd go to the bathroom or we'd stand in the lobby. This is before the movie. And I see that Return of the Living Dead poster. It's got all those dead zombie punks. And I'm just fucking staring at it. I'm like, this has got to be the scariest movie ever made. This is terrifying. So it's so enraptured my imagination that when we came back to the lobby, parents used the bathroom again. I get it now. I totally get it. It's like me. Like I have to pee 3 times during Weapons. That's all I remember. But no, Weapons was a fantastic film, but I had to go to the bathroom 3 times. Pete's sister gave me a bunch of watermelon, and I voraciously ate it because I was so hungry. But I was like, oh wait, this is mostly water. Did not think about that. I went back out into the lobby. I am staring at that poster, and I was utterly fascinated. This film was supposed to come out in 1984. But there was a bunch of production delays, so it didn't drop until 1985. So technically it's 41 years old for you nerds, but this is the 40th, anniversary because of the release. There are 2 important things that Return of the Living Dead teaches us. The dead eat brains. That's the whole thing is, Tarman, brains, right? That's the whole tag of this thing. And we also learned that the brains are like a drug. And the way the creator Dan O'Bannon came up with this, he's like, the brain produces adrenaline, epinephrine, all this shit. And basically that's like a hardcore drug. It's like fentanyl for zombies. Now we also learned that if they don't eat the brains, they feel themselves slowly rotting. And this gives us a new psychological aspect to zombies, that they are in pain. And the only way that they can relieve the pain is to get that drug. And the drug in question is your brains. My favorite part of this movie comes right up top. The famous title card at the beginning of Return of the Living Dead. It states, the events portrayed in this film are a true story. The names are real names. The incidents are accurately portrayed. Now, of course, this was a VHS banger. There was nobody. I was like, please bring me to Return of the... Nobody, Toxic Avenger, please bring me to it. Nope, that ain't happening, little Jerry. So I had to see this on VHS. And let me tell you, audience and producer Pete, I saw that fucking title card. And I was like, yo, this shit is real? You're telling me... Little whatever, I was 7 years old, 8 years old. You're telling me, little Jerry, this shit really happened? I was like, now, of course, when you're a dumb little fat kid in your short pants with your 2 best friends, Dr. Pepper and Mr. Popcorn, you're saying to yourself, this really happened. So this is kind of a running gag in the film as the characters discuss how George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead was supposedly based on real-life zombie event. The title card is a tongue-in-cheek opening that establishes the movie's mix of horror and dark humor. We're watching it simultaneously because that's how we roll. Just great crotch shots of Linnea Quigley. Shout out to Linnea Quigley. How you doing, girl? Also, could I just say, really non sequitur, if anybody knows Diana Prince, tell her to call Uncle Jerry. Uncle Jerry will be waiting for your call. Where does our story start? It started with a mutual childhood obsession with EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt, all that good stuff, Vault of Horror. 2 friends, Dan O'Bannon and George A. Romero, they love those EC Comics. I love the reprints. They were great. So the Return of the Living Dead has its roots in a novel by John Russo, simply titled Return of the Living Dead. It served as a follow-up to Night of the Living Dead, which Russo co-scribed with George A. Romero. Now, of course, look, it's going to be hard for me because, I have to stop myself because the whole, of the Dead lore is so big. It's its own ocean itself. We can't get into that stuff because I will go on into just rambles about Dawn of the Dead and other things. So I'm going to try to stay focused for the sake of this podcast. So when Russo and Romero parted ways after Night of the Living Dead, Russo retained the rights to any titles featuring Living Dead, while Romero was free to create his own series of sequels, which started with the classic Dawn of the Dead, 1978, of course. Russo and producer Tom Fox planned to bring Return of the Living Dead to the big screen in 3D. And guess what? Here is the first twist. It was going to be originally directed by Tobe Hooper. The crazy thing is that they wanted Tobe Hooper to direct Return of the Living Dead, but there was one big problem. He had a deal with Canon, 3-picture deal, Invaders from Mars, Life Force, fantastic movie. And the reality was that they were never going to get Cannon to break that contract for Tobe Hooper to come and do this movie. Cannon thought that Tobe Hooper was going to be like their Jesus. And unfortunately, he went over budget on most of those movies. He finally did deliver with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And that movie's great, but I think the public wasn't ready for it because the public wanted just a old-fashioned, scary-ass movie. And they got a bit of satire. And for a lot of people at the time, especially horror and genre fans, I think it was over their head. Because there's people who are into this shit. Like the people that aforementioned that were with me on the Toxic Avenger opening last week. Those folks get it. They're there. They understand the genre. They're smart. But the general public, the people who just want to watch movies, it went over their head. And this is what I was saying about the 80s. I was saying this to a friend of the show, Sean King, who has Screamwalkers that's showing everywhere right now. Sick plug. With that being said, I said to Sean, I'm like, the 80s were about people who wanted to have popcorn and get laid after the movie. They wanted Ghostbusters. They wanted Back to the Future. They wanted these very easily consumable films. And that's why, and this is my argument, Return of the Living Dead comes out the same year as Day of the Dead. And Day of the Dead is a fantastic movie. It is a bleak movie. It is a dour film. It is relentlessly gloomy, and you see maybe a little spark of the hope of humanity. But that's the thing, man. That movie doesn't cater to the mainstream crowd. Return of the Living Dead, you got naked Linnea Quigley, you got zombie punks, you got some really cool special effects. You want to eat popcorn and you want to get laid. With that being said, that's why Return of the Living Dead is probably one of my favorite zombie movies of all time. Just because it delivers. And goddamn, do those titties deliver every time. So when Hemdale Film Corporation experienced difficulty raising funds for the movie, they delayed the start of production for Return of the Living Dead. So Hooper realized he had an uphill battle with the folks at Cannon, and he says, listen, I'm just going to go make Life Force. And that film also has some fantastic memories. Memories? Do you say memories? I don't even know what it is. Thanks for the memories. That was a Fall Out Boy album. Just that's a fun fact for everyone. So Life Force co-screenwriter Dan O'Bannon was brought in to give the early script a polish and was offered the director's seat. This is a direct quote from Dan O'Bannon. I spent 37 years of my life not even being alive. Now I am fulfilled. Dan O'Bannon on making his directorial debut. And I think that if you've ever wanted to make movies, you got to do it. That's number one. Get out there, make your own damn movie, as Lloyd Kaufman always said. It's one of those things where it's like you feel like it's birth. You feel like, all right, whether you win, lose, or draw, people hate the movie, love the movie, you need to get it out of your system. So this was a big deal for Dan O'Bannon, who had experienced a rough go of it in Hollywood after writing Alien. Because what happened was every studio wanted their own Alien. So they would come to Dan O'Bannon and they'd say, hey, give us another Alien. And he was like, I'm not really interested in doing that. I'd like to do other stuff. But what I was telling my man, producer Pete here, was everything with Aliens is based on his characters because he wrote a bunch of the movies. So what happens now is they do a comic book, characters based on Dan O'Bannon. Dude, this guy is getting checks far into the distant future. Alien Earth, which is fantastic, by the way. Alien Romulus, the greatest Aliens theme park ride we never got. He's getting checks for it. So, you can't be mad at that. I mean, could you imagine, I was saying this before, like imagine having generational wealth and being like, yo, I live in Palm Springs. I don't have to work. Why? Because my dad wrote fucking Alien. And it's like, damn, that's a flex. Goddamn, producer Pete, I want that flex. I want to be like, my dad wrote The Offering. And you're like, really? What the fuck is that? Basically, O'Bannon accepts the condition that he could rewrite Return of the Living Dead so he could differentiate it, A, from Romero's films, and B, from Tobe Hooper's treatment. Because Tobe Hooper's treatment was very dark. It was going to be a very dark, very, again, relentlessly grim film, all shot in 3D. There was the 3D craze that was still coming from Jaws 3D, Friday the 13th Part 3D, and to a lesser extent, Metal Storm 3D. Have you ever seen that movie? Wow, that movie sucks. Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, look it up. As we know with all of these movies, if you're a regular offering listener, you know that shit never goes to plan. So inevitably, there was going to be a lawsuit. And this lawsuit dates back to 1978. Now, Richard P. Rubenstein, the producer of Dawn of the Dead at Laurel Entertainment, didn't want people to think that ROTLD was a part of George A. Romero's Living Dead series. He even filed for an injunction to stop the makers of Return of the Living Dead from using Living Dead in the title. However, the MPAA arbitrators ruled in favor of John A. Russo because he had co-written Night of the Living Dead and based this film on his own novel, Return of the Living Dead. That's pretty smart. You see that, producer Pete? That's a smart move. Write the novel, and then you base the movie on the novel. Fuck you, it's my intellectual property. That's a smart lesson for you kids. In fact, Romero had long before agreed with Russo that he would drop the word Living Dead from all of his subsequent sequels, which, of course, this just goes on forever. Dawn, Day, Land, etc. Diary. Let's not talk about that one. This film was the first production design credit for William Stout. Now, who is William Stout? Well, let me tell you about this. This guy, holy shit, man. He did everything. It's insane. He created all the artwork for the Rolling Stones, like the record sleeves. He was one of the first American contributors to heavy metal. He did the poster for Rock and Roll High School. Everything, from the Smithereens to Tommy, film and television, Wizards, Buck Roger. He did the art for Thriller. This guy, it's insane. It just goes on and on and on. William Stout is a fucking genius. Shout out to my man, William Stout. The appearance of the zombies in this film was inspired by the mummies of Guadalajara, Mexico, and the bog people of Wales, as well as the artwork from EC Comics. So that's where all of this design comes from. Now, again, one of the big problems with this movie is that you have this going head to head with George A. Romero's Day of the Dead film, and they were going to be released in the same year. And obviously, they were two very different movies, and the makers of both films were afraid that Return or Day would confuse audiences. So it was a race to the finish to get either film out. The stories featured 2,4,5-trioxin chemical, which was another thing that was developed for this film. Was developed by the Darrow Chemical Company for the military, which was a play on the real-life Dow Chemical Company. Obviously, Dow and its involvement in the 1960s with the manufacture of Agent Orange, scientifically known as the name 2,4,5-T-doxin. And it was used in the U.S. military Operation Ranch Hand, and it was also used in Canada. It was used during the Vietnam War. It was a powerful defoliant. It was a powerful weapon. People got really sick. A lot of soldiers got cancer because of it. Really sad stuff. Return of the Living Dead makes up a lighter purpose for the chemicals usage, with Frank suggesting that it was being sprayed on cannabis crops in the 1960s. That was like a thing in the 1960s, was like, hey man, this shit wasn't sprayed with that Agent Orange. And it was kind of like a joke, but also like a sad reminder to a lot of Vietnam vets who were sparking up, coming back from the war. It was a funny thing to them, but it was also a grim reminder of a war that never should have happened, a very pointless war. A lot of people on that said that Dan O'Bannon didn't have many social graces as a director. A lot of the cast and crew said it was a challenging film to work on. Hemdale and Orion tried to pinch pennies everywhere they could. Now, Hemdale/Orion had just come off of Platoon. Platoon's like, this Oscar-winning big prestige picture at the time. They spent entirely too much money on that film, especially the Oscar campaign. But, it did win awards. And that said, Return of the Living Dead had to come in on time and on budget. And a lot of the people like at Hemdale and Orion, they were kind of like, yo, we just did this. Let's do better movies. And so a lot of people, there was kind of this whole thing like, well, fuck this zombie movie. We need to be doing Oscar-winning pictures. But at the same time, what people don't realize is these little horror movies keep the fucking lights on. Stuff like Weapons keeps the lights on for these studios. They make money, and they don't cost a lot of money. My buddy Joe Russo, he's always talking about, is horror back? Horror never goes away because it is always profitable. A lot of people said on the set of this movie that Return of the Living Dead could be a war zone. It was made cheaply. It was made in 6 weeks. It was shot in warehouses in Los Angeles. Obviously, the film is supposed to be set in Kentucky. Nobody has any accents. It doesn't matter. We even see all kinds of locations that are from Los Angeles. It doesn't matter. But this was all shot in warehouses. So a lot of times the warehouses were up to 95 to 103 degrees. These people were dying. And then when they were doing the night shoots, it was even worse because they had them out in the rain. It was cold. It was just a miserable shoot, especially for the young folks. If we go back, one of our stars, Clu Gallagher, and Dan O'Bannon fought numerous times on set. Clu wouldn't be pushed around like the young actors. See, the young kids didn't know any better, so you can tell them to go fuck themselves. But Clu, who had worked on Real Pictures and was kind of a minor star, he was basically, no, you can't treat me like that. And O'Bannon had a hard time adjusting in Hollywood because he was a writer by nature, even writing many stories for heavy metal. It's really kind of a sad thing, but the directing bug never truly bit O'Bannon because he has kind of this huge hit with Return. The next year, what does he do? He writes Aliens, and Aliens makes a ton of money and is still making money. Now, I just want to give a short overview. In 1991, he directed his final film. After that, it was The Resurrected, which is the body horror thriller starring Chris Sarandon. I can't lie to you, I've never seen it. It was kind of just dumped on home video. So he stays on the Alien series, shepherding it for many years. Unfortunately, Dan O'Bannon died in 2009 of Crohn's disease. Now it's sad. It's a, terrible thing. But again, his family is making money off of all this new Alien stuff. So here's a little fun fact to break it up. The filmmakers had to get approval from Lysol to have Frank spray the stench of death with their product. They liked the idea that Lysol would kill any conceivable odor, so Lysol was like, fine, you can use it in the movie, we'll give you a couple of bucks. So I thought that was pretty cool. Shout out to Lysol for being so cool about this. Before we get to some of the actors and cast, I would like to just give a shout out to the special effects people in this film because special effects folks don't get the credit they deserve. They did such a fantastic job in this movie, captivated my imagination as a child. Really, it was one of those formative things for me where I said to myself, wow, how do they do this? How does Tom Savini do it? How does, Rick Baker do it? So seeing a lot of the special effects gags in here had me wondering, how did they make the zombies come out of the ground? How did they make Tarman? So the special effects for the 1980 film The Return of the Living Dead were created by a team of William Munns, Tony Gardner, and Kenny Myers. They designed the practical effects like the Tarman and the half-corpse effect. Munn was responsible for designing and constructing the Tarman costume. Gardner created the half-corpse effects. Now, even though Munn's work, including Tarman, are seen in the final film, he was fired. Producers felt that his other work on the film was lacking. He wasn't able to keep up with the large scope of the production. Truth be told, from what I've heard, Munn was relieved that he didn't have to finish the film. The effects crew also included Alan A. Apone, Larry Odin, and additional effects were handled by Greg Caton and Tony Ruprecht. I can't even say the name. I don't care. It's fine. I'm sure he was a cool dude.
We'll be right back with more of The Offering with Jerry Horror.
Attention all horror-loving gals and ghouls. Are you thirsty for a frightfully good pint? Then rise from the grave and make your way to the Necromantic Brew Co. This horror movie-themed brewery is serving up scares and beers like no other, hosting killer events, unique horror happenings, and even special celebrity guests. And here's the twist. They're the only dedicated gluten-free brewery with a tap room in all of New York. We've summoned the lineup and loaded the crypt because the Necromantic fridge is overflowing with horror-inspired brews. Find them at 253 Main Street in Farmingdale, haunting Long Island with hops and horror, easy to get to right off the Long Island Railroad. So come raise a glass with the living, the dead, and everyone in between. Necromantic Brew Co. Drink differently.
Now available in paperback, hardcover, and ebook. Icons of Fright, 100 interviews with legendary horror filmmakers. You can now own the greatest collection of horror interviews ever assembled. From the universal monsters to modern-day meta, there's something here for every horror fan to sink their fangs into. Icons of Fright, 100 interviews with legendary horror filmmakers. Available now on Amazon from Harker Press.
Listeners and fans of The Offering can get their hands on their very own The Offering with Jerry Horror merch, now only at TeePublic. Find your own fresh The Offering with Jerry Horror high-quality merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeves, stickers, and mugs. Just like the show, we've got gear that's mostly horror, always genre. The Offering with Jerry Horror TeePublic store has everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Folks, head on over to teepublic.com right now and pick up your very own Offering tee today. You're listening to The Offering with Jerry Horror. Got a question or a story you want to share with me? It might be featured in a future episode. Email me at jerryhorror@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter at jerryhorror. I'm also on Instagram. You can find me there at jerryhorror. Rate and review this show on Apple Podcast, and you might find your review in an upcoming episode. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to The Offering. Now back to the show. So, we need to get to the cast of this movie because it will tie into many other facets of what transpired. I gotta tell you, this movie has a banger of a cast. From top to bottom, especially, Linnea Quigley, it all works. They really did kind of nail it. There is one person in this film that was involved in some pretty nasty stuff. I'm going to address it, right up top. And it was part of that whole Nickelodeon scandal. But I think the less said about it, the better. So whoever that actor is, we will not be speaking about them. So let's get to it. Oh, here's a fun fact. A young George Clooney visited the set as he was then the roommate of Tom Matthews. Tom Matthews is in this film. He plays Freddy. He is the kid who obviously is in Friday the 13th Part 6. You all know him. He was probably the best and the most handsome Tommy Jarvis. Total shade to Corey Feldman. It is what it is. We had Clu Gulager, and the lead pipe that Clu Gulager uses in the movie is actually made of rubber. He initially used a real pipe, but the crew snuck it away from him and replaced it with a rubber one as Dan O'Bannon was worried about Clu's frequent anger and sometimes violent outbursts both on and off the set. It's funny because in More Brains, the documentary they did, Clu Gulager, he's like this nice grandpa now, and he's like, that never happened. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but everybody said, he would throw shit on the set. He was angry at all times. Him and fucking O'Bannon, it was like a married couple. From the start of every day, they went at it. For the young cast, they kind of looked at him as like, yo, fucking Clu is so cool. He's out there and he's just like, fuck you, Dan. Fuck you. Oh, shout out to Clu Gulager. Died August 5th, 2022 in Los Angeles, California. Famous cowboy actor from back in the day. God damn, he was the man. Also, you know what he was in? Same year, Freddy's Revenge, the Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Clu was the father in that film. He was great, man. He was great. James Karen is Frank, always a welcome actor in films. According to Jules Shepard, Dan O'Bannon met her in the early 80s when he was a member of a very ultra chic and private club where she worked as a stripper. Now, they became good friends when they had a lot in common, and he bought her drugs, allegedly. Jules Shepard played Casey in the movie, and I gotta tell you, I saw Jules Shepard. She's out on the con circuit. Woo! Girl hasn't aged a day. She looked good. With that being said, allegedly, O'Bannon bought her drugs a couple of times, and when he got the directing gig for this film, he wanted her to play trash. But she was fed up with being naked on stage and in her small film roles at the time, so she suggested she audition for Party Girl Casey since she liked to party. And Dan O'Bannon agreed. Now, obviously, we got to get down to it, and she really is the star of this film. Linnea Quigley, come on, man. She is an absolute legend. Scream Queen, Night of the Demons, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Graduation Day. She's in so many classic films. She's still working today. She looks fabulous. Always a pleasure to see Linnea turn up in movies. And we're going to get to some other stuff that she was working on right now, which is insane. Believe it or not, the dude, Bert, who Clu Gulager plays, that part was originally offered to Leslie Nielsen, who wanted too much money. It was then offered to Robert Webber, who hated the script, And then they tried to get Scott Brady, who was too sick and actually died a year later. Fourth choice, Clu Gulager, basically got hired the day before they started shooting, which is insane because Clu's role in this film is so huge, and they're like, hey, you start tomorrow. And it just shows that he's such a professional that he could just show up and do it. Now, we have to get into the vagina of it all, because that's why you're here. When shooting Trash's gravestone dance, she initially was completely naked and showed pubic hair, which was more of the norm in the early 80s. However, producer Graham Henderson visited the shoot that day, and according to himself and others, threw a fit yelling at Dan O'Bannon saying, you cannot show pubic hair on television or on film. Dan sent Linnea away and had her completely shaved by a crew member. I don't know. She must have been very open with her body. God bless her. Coincidentally, Linnea found herself that to be the whole most embarrassing part of this film was you just have a random dude with, a razor just shaving your private parts. And that is, it's embarrassing. They decided to do this and reshoot it. And so now they've got shaved Linnea. And then Graham Henderson cried out, oh God, it's even worse. You can see everything. So ironically, the exact same thing would happen with Matilda May's nude scenes on the next movie that Dan O'Bannon scripted, which was Life Force. Ton of nudity. She's walking around naked. It's great. 10 out of 10. No notes. 5 stars. With that being said, they could see Linnea's anatomical lady bits. So what do? They send Linnea quickly over to Bill Munn and William Stout, where they made an alginate crotch piece resembling the bottom of a G-string, and they glued it onto her pubis. I think that is the first mention of pubis on this podcast, and that is dope. That is something I'd like to give a sick plug to. According to Linnea, this was a problem, since every time she had to go to the bathroom, they had to remove it, because it was a plug. This thing was going over her vagina and made her look like a Barbie doll, where there was no genitalia. So, for the most part, it was just bad. There's things that the offering does not need to go into. It made her look like a department store mannequin, and quickly joked that she had never had more attention focused on her vagina than when they were shooting that scene. She even said, no one's ever focused on my vagina that much. Fans still ask if there's any footage of the versions with her dance with the pubic hair or uncovered shaved vagina, but so far none has shown up. How much of a fucking creep are you that you show up to like a horror convention, you're like, you got the part where you have footage of when it's furry? Or could you have footage of your beef curtains? Could I see that? I think that's the first mention and probably the last mention of beef curtains on The Offering. Really a low point for our show. Let's move on. Oh, don't forget my other buddy who, same year, these guys are just killing it. Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who was Demon in Friday the 13th Part 5. He's like, oh, damn, those enchiladas. He sings with his girlfriend. He's great. Shout out to Miguel. New York guy. Very cool dude. So let's talk about another fun fact to get away from the beef curtains. After the rabid weasels are brought into the Resurrection Funeral Home and the tarp is removed, what's actually in the bag and making it rustle around were motorized toy monkeys that have the symbols removed. See, this is what filmmaking's about. It's about you got a problem and you can solve it for $1.25. You get some fake monkeys, you put some batteries in them, you got weasels. Oh my God, look at the illusion. That's how movie making is done, folks. It's not always about the $1 million, it's about the ingenuity. Listen, I gotta hit you with these fun facts. There's just so many little bits and pieces here. Now, some of the zombie extras were paid bonuses to eat real calf brains on the film, and Dan O'Bannon ate some raw calf brains in front of them to show them, hey, I'm not gonna ask you kids to do anything that I wouldn't do. Yeah, so he gave them cash money to eat the calf brains. That is fucking disgusting. But 2 or 3 were so strapped for cash, they actually did it. Really quick, the musical score for this film was done by composer Matt Clifford. This is his only feature film credit, but Clifford stays busy as a longtime musical collaborator with Sir Mick Jagger, and he's also the touring keyboard player on the Rolling Stones. This movie has an excellent movie score. It has a lot of great punk rock music. Obviously, the title song, by 45 from the Grave. It's got a lot of good stuff on the soundtrack. Now, we should probably just get to the release before we get out of control here. According to the recently released book, The Complete History of the Return of the Living Dead, The Simpsons creator Matt Groening came up with the tagline, "They're hungry and they're not vegetarians," which appears in some of the first trailers. And then another tagline he came up with was, "First they want to meet you and then they want to eat you." But that was rejected by the studio. I think they were morons. Those are both fantastic taglines. I think the people at Hemdale were like, most people don't even know what vegetarians are. So, hey, there's, they were obviously meat eaters. They were carnivores like me. The Return of the Living Dead was initially set to open up in Los Angeles and New York in September of 1985, before gradually expanding through October. But following positive test screenings, Orion Pictures became confident enough to give it a wide release on August 16th. Now, what I told you was this film was delayed a year. So technically, again, it's an 84 film. Wow, we're watching it and Linnea's butt is just hanging out. This poor girl, she's just naked through the whole movie. God bless her. Yeah, this movie was delayed for about a year, and then it doesn't come out until August 16th of 1985. I think they were better for it. Horror was so hot in 85. Let's talk about, obviously, Hemdale Film Corporation. They were all over this. Fox Films Limited, which was Dan O'Bannon's joint, and Cinema 84. It was distributed by Orion Pictures. This is a perfect film. It is a perfect lightning in the bottle 80s film, like I always talk about. It's 91 minutes. There's not an ounce of fat on this movie. Oh, bring back the 90-minute movie. I'm feeling it. Recently saw Nobody 2. That was 90 minutes, and it was fantastic. The budget for this joint was $3 to $4 million. Box office globally, $14.2 million. Now, obviously, it came out on VHS. It was distributed by HBO Video for a long time and Thorn EMI somewhere overseas in the UK. For its DVD release, this is a really cool part of the whole story of Return of the Living Dead. In an unprecedented move, a fan of the film started an internet campaign to get the movie released in DVD. This started in the year 2000. Oh man, you know what I'm going to say, the Conan gag. In the year 2000. Sorry, I had to do it. Love Conan. Shout out to Conan O'Brien. He'll never have anything to do with The Offering, but we love him. Going beyond simple fan petitions, Michael Allard created a web page consolidating every bit of news relating to the film and contacted many of the film's principals, including the writer and director Dan O'Bannon. He went on to put O'Bannon in touch with MGM, which ended up becoming the home of this film, the studio that owned the film, and work began on getting the film released on DVD. And O'Bannon and others who worked on the film credited Allard and his campaign for finally getting the movie released on DVD. Now, just another fun fact, because goddamn, there's just a bunch of unrelated facts to this movie. On the back of Freddy's jacket in the theatrical version, the words "fuck you" are displayed. After realizing that the shot could not be used in case it was ever shown on TV, a second jacket was made that says television version and can be seen only in the TV version of the movie. All right, one more. Let me just get it out of my system. Bonus fun fact, and this is around 19 minutes in the film. The gravestone to the left of the large one, which Trash first performs her striptease and has the name Archibald Leach on it. This is the real name of the actor better known as Cary Grant. William Stout, Dan O'Bannon, big fans of Cary Grant, so they snuck that little Easter egg in there just to fuck with you. Now, of course, we could go into the critical responses. Roger Ebert loved this film. He actually gave it 3 stars. It was a mixed critical reception. Some critics got it, and the critics that got it were like, this is fantastic. I absolutely love it. The critics that didn't get it were like, oh, fuck this movie. It just doesn't work for me. Sometimes there's really good reviews from the critics, but this is one of the cases where it's like they either dug it or they didn't. 1985 was a very different time for genre films. It's like Shaun of the Dead came out and people were like, oh, this is fucking brilliant, because it was. Return of the Living Dead was a little too ahead of its time. So critics at that time were more like, oh, Fellini. But the difference now is with critics like myself, and I don't even know if I'm a critic. I don't know what I am. I'm just like a movie pundit. But I can appreciate Fellini and Fulci in that same breath, because I understand what Fulci's doing, and I think he is a master of what he's doing, and I have the same appreciation for somebody like Federico Fellini. I think he is also a genius. but it is that highbrow, lowbrow thing. And everything used to be highbrow. A lot of the critics that were like Gene Siskel were like, oh, these movies are lowbrow, they're fucking trash. But the thing is that trash, no subtle reference to Linnea Quigley, trash can be art too in its own way. I think now in modern film criticism, which is largely a joke thanks to like jerk-off reviewers on TikTok, it's a good movie, bro. On God, no cap, it's bussin'. That's like a review on TikTok, which tells you nothing. My other problem with TikTok too is it's like you have like naked girl in a bikini. Well, she's not naked. She holds up a DVD. And it's like, well, what do we learn about the movie? We learn that you got really great rack, but also that you can hold up a product, you know? It's like, that's the marketing thing, you know, like for Superman, it's like, what's the red carpet? They put a girl in a low-cut Superman dress. What does she have to say about the film? Nothing. She just looks good in a low-cut Superman dress. Sorry, folks, I digress. But my whole point of this is that a lot of the critics now, like myself, we understand the machinations of genre film. In fact, that's what this podcast is about. It's about genre film. And what we have figured out is that no matter how much you look down at something, yeah, like Shaun of the Dead was a big hit in the 2000s, obviously. And this film was a big hit too, but I think there were a lot of critics that thumbed their nose at it and didn't get the satire. So look, sometimes you can be ahead of your time and it's a good thing, and sometimes it's not. But the proof is in the pudding, because Return of the Living Dead is a stone cold classic, and we're talking about it today. So it's 40 years later, but the film did something, right? Let's get to the sequels. This is one of my favorite parts of the show, is like when we get to the fucking sequels. Of course, there's Return of the Living Dead 2, which I like. It's more goofy and dopey. It focuses on a kid. The kid is the protagonist. My man Tom Matthews and Clu Gulager show up in the sequel. And it's funny because I do, you know, like, are they playing different characters? Are they the same characters? It doesn't really matter. No one cares. Back in the 80s, it wasn't like the Marvel movies where there had to be continuity. They just did whatever the hell they wanted. And I like that. I like that when studios, they just didn't give a shit. They're like, the kids are just going to be fucking taking bong rips. They don't care. Yeah, whatever. So you got Return of the Living Dead 3, which is where we have the sexy zombie. And God, that lady is so sexy. She looks amazing. She's got all the piercings and stuff. That was directed by Braaiinnnsss. Fantastic special effects artist. Really put his fucking foot up in that motherfucker. Has some fantastic practical effects in Return of the Living Dead 3. And then there's the Sci-Fi Channel sequels that were shot back to back and aired in the same year. The less said, the better. But I do love the title of this film. It is Return of the Living Dead, Rave to the Grave. And then there's Return of the Living Dead, the final one that they had done, which was Necropolis. That was like shot overseas. It was like shot in fucking Kazakhstan or some bullshit. And the movie just looks like it was made for $1. It is a shitty, shitty movie. Even the practical effects in those two movies are fucking terrible. And here's the thing, man. You could make a dope movie because you had this whole thing with the punk scene and it works. You could have had like Rave to the Grave. I was like, this is a good idea. You have these kids. They're going to a rave. Now we take rave culture and we mix it into the Return of the Living Dead formula. But they didn't do that because these movies were shot so cheaply, so inept. Because Sci-Fi Channel had all these terrible movies. Of course, they had shit like Sharknado eventually, but most of the stuff was shitty. Sharknado sucked. Those movies sucked. I didn't like any of them. Fucking don't at me. I don't even care, man. Sharknado's terrible. All the sequels are terrible. I don't care. So, there was a 2011 documentary which I saw, which was called More Brains, Return to the Living Dead. It's a good documentary. I recommend it. It's a little over 2 hours. It is exhaustive. You got a lot of stories in there. You get to see a little bit of the madness that was the making of Return of the Living Dead. So we have to get to upcoming and fan-made projects. There is a new official sequel allegedly coming out at the end of the year. We'll see. You'll find out, after or before you hear this podcast. A new installment of Return of the Living Dead is scheduled for Christmas 2025 release, continuing the story from the original film's universe. Special effects legend Tony Gardner returns to do the effects. There will be no CGI. It is a new installment rather than a simple reboot, according to the Living Dead Media and its CEO, Steve Walsh. Can I just talk about this for a second? So this guy, he's now Living Dead CEO and Living Dead Media. This is my fucking problem with this shit. Like in Friday the 13th, like they sold it to some The people who are running it right now are some media group, and I don't agree with it because there's no creators behind a vision. It's a corporate structure that is looking to make money, and that's how shit like with this new Friday the 13th, like Sweet Revenge, it is a fucking hard cider commercial. And no shade to Sweet Revenge. You know, the people who made that, they did their thing. It's pretty cool for what it is, but it's still an advertisement. And you have a silver screen legend. Maybe I'm being too fucking precious about this, but I look at these characters like Jason, Freddy, they're like prostitutes, but they're premium pussy, and they should be put out there, and they should be on the silver screen, not selling hard cider. End of my rant. I'm done. The teaser trailer dropped for this movie, and I'm not going to lie, the teaser trailer looked kind of hot. The iconic Tar Man is teased in the trailer. He's in there. They were saying that the story is set 18 months after the original Return of the Living Dead, with a trioxin leak causing a zombie outbreak in a small Pennsylvania town during the Christmas season of 1985. As producer Pete always says, we are going to look at this film cautiously optimistic. We hope for the best. We got some good people associated with it. Hopefully they do something cool. And I would love, this year we're getting the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake. That's from the Terrifier folks. Kind of pumped for that. But hopefully this is cool, because I want to go to the movies at Christmas time and just eat my popcorn and be like, look at Tar Man. He's fucking biting people's faces off. That's what I like at Christmas. I love Christmas horror. There is a fan film. It's a fan film. We can't make money off of it because it's a fucking fan film. Guys, don't make fan films. It's a waste of your fucking time. Go make something original and be punk rock and fucking make money off of it and be a greedy corporate hustler like everybody else, like fucking Sean Cunningham is now. Just be a whore. You need the money. You got the bread. You got bills. The dog gets sick. Kids got to go to college. Fuck a fan film. Let's make sure those kids go to college and don't grow up to be fucking rapists and rob me. Trash's Revenge, directed and starring Linnea Quigley, who played the titular character. Did you know? She was the lady who played Trash. In the original film, this project is a fan-funded movie set within the Return of the Living Dead universe. It makes no sense. Sure, maybe she'll get the right people. I'm sure she has some suitcase pimp who will help her and guide her through this process. It is what it is. Well, folks, we've reached damn near the end of the episode when we get to my favorite part of the show, Unhinged Reviews. Yeah. Robert E., 1 out of 5 stars. The title of the review, should be rated X. 0 stars. Even though he gave it 1 star. This guy, he's already a dipshit. Absolute filth. Should be rated X. Wish I read the rating guide before purchasing. Glad I didn't watch it. Would like a refund. So how can you ascertain that it's absolute filth? I know what you did. You went and you saw them titties, and you're like, I'm done. That's it. You saw the titties, and you were like, I'm done. Absolute filth? You think this is filth? Fucking Hemdale, when they released this movie, they were afraid, because they were the studio that brought you Platoon, and they don't want to be known. But guess what? Pound for pound, penny for penny, Return of the Living Dead was far more fucking profitable than Platoon. Take that, Oscar, and shove it right up your fucking ass. Amber, is it Amber Waves? It's Amber Waves from fucking Boogie Nights. 1 out of 5 stars. This was a Walmart purchase. Don't like horror. That's the title. Why'd you buy this? Why'd you even bother? This was a gift for Christmas, and I'm sure they will enjoy it very well. Thank you very much. I can't, guys. Thank you very much for sending it before the 24th. That's it. Didn't see the movie. Doesn't give a shit. It was a gift. But here's the thing, man. Amber's very happy that, her friend got it before the 24th. So write a nice letter to Walmart. Don't leave a review. No one cares. Well, I care because we got to use it, but you don't open up your review with don't like horror. What are you putting that out there? Like for your friends at church? Like, oh shit, did you see the review that Amber wrote for Return of the Living Dead? She's watching that trash. Laura Smith. Always, I feel like we've been really hard on the ladies this season, but Jesus Christ. Laura Smith, this was a verified, because I was digging down in Target's DMs too. This is a 1-star review. Title of the review, a complete and total waste of film. This movie is worse than I remember it. If you want a good zombie movie, watch something actually directed by George A. Romero. Fucking shots fired, bro. Fuck you, Dan O'Bannon. George is the hero. I had this argument with someone yesterday. They're like, well, George A. Romero, ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. I'm like, this movie's far more influential, and Return of the Living Dead plays to the fucking lexicon of pop culture in ways that George's shit couldn't play. So it came from John Russo, came from a man, Dan O'Bannon, but my hot take here is that I think that this movie said more about zombies and put it out into the zeitgeist in ways that George A. Romero could not. Sorry, not sorry. Philip Rouse, half a star. Can't even call it a zombie movie. What the fuck is it then? What is it, Philip? It's not a zombie movie? What is it? Is it a vampire movie? Is it a werewolf movie? It's not. It's a zombie movie. You're a dumbass. I can't even call this a zombie movie. I do not want to watch this film again, nor do I want to own it because I am way too embarrassed to have it as a part of my collection. Fuck you. What are you doing? Are you one of those weirdos that like they release these movies and it's like, I've got it. It sucks, but I've got it. Don't buy it then, man. We vote every day. Fuck the president. Fuck elections. We vote every day with our dollar. You like Duncan? Give them your money. You like Champion? Give them your money. You don't like Nike and they got kids making fucking sneakers in third world countries? Don't buy it. I noticed the ratings this film received and I feel that this movie is highly overrated. The only way I can watch this movie is to laugh at how stupid it is. I don't get it, man. You bought it, but you don't like it. You deserve what you get, you prick. Elite Lamo, 0 stars. Who are these people that like these films? You guys are all pathetic, and you know who you are. Romero salivating lemmings. Oh, points that this guy actually has a pretty decent vocabulary. There is no point dissenting towards a mass appeal of horror films based on zombies. Sorry, but nothing touches the first 38 minutes of 28 Days Later. Here's my hot take. 28 Days Later could suck a dick. Not a fan, hate the way it was shot, it's a shitty movie. This was punk cinema C- movie everything. It is unnerving to think that people make a living by working on these types of films. How dare you? Who the fuck are you? You're probably one of these fucking pieces of shit that's like, she's a whore. No, she's a sex worker and she makes more money than you, bitch. And you're fucking hot over that, you little incel fuck. What a true disgrace to ever make my name associated with the making of a film like this. So now this motherfucker is telling me that he made the film and he's venting on the fucking Amazon website. Dude, go out and fucking talk to Fangoria. But you won't because you probably didn't work on the film. You're telling me you've got shade to throw at this picture and you're not out at every fucking convention being a whore like the rest of these fucking people and saying, oh, it's a terrible film. What a scumbag. It would be an embarrassment to my craft and my profession to know my name was on the credits with something so cheesy and truly bathwater jugular deplorable. Fuck you. Fuck you and your fucking 100,000 word vocabulary. You're a prick. No, I can't, man. I'm so upset by these fucking Unhinged reviews. You people are fucking shit. And listen, I know you're entitled to your opinion because in this country, we allegedly value free speech, which is bullshit. We don't. You can say whatever you want, but if we don't like what you say, you need to shut up or we'll deport you from this country because that's what's going on. Now, like, this has just turned into an Alex Jones podcast. It's liberals. Liberals are at it again. So for you hardcore motherfuckers, you know who you are. You listen to this episode. I want you to write, if you've gotten this far into the episode, I want you to write in the captions, in the comments, more brains, all caps, 20 exclamation points. There better be 20. If I don't see 20, you're not a real fan. You're just a fucking poser. More brains, all caps, 20 exclamation points. Let us know that you're listening to this show. That's all that fucking matters. So, what's the conclusion of this show? Return of the Living Dead is a banger. It's far more influential in different ways than George A. Romero's films. And if you don't like it, you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm Jerry Horror. This is The Offering. Mostly horror, always genre. You've been listening to The Offering with Jerry Horror. Produced by Pete Bune. If you have a question or story you want to share with me, we'd love to hear from you. You can email me at theofferingwithjerryhorror@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at theofferingwjh or hit me up on the Instagram at Jerry Horror. You get the picture? Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Join us next time for another offering.
Chasing furries like Omaya, genre twists that shake your core. Every episode, we craving more. Mostly horror, always genre.
This has been a Sick Boy Wolfgang production. Thank you for listening.
Are you still there? You shouldn't be here. The episode's over. You can go home now. But if you're still listening and you're super hardcore and you're a real fan of The Offering, I want you to write Pussy Plug in the comments. Pussy Plug, all caps. Shh.